Well, thank you so much, Majid, for sharing that. And this will bring our policy ponder party to a close and set up for our final segment. I know, thank you, Majid, for taking so much time with us today. We really appreciate conversation with you. And I think both of us have learned a lot and definitely reflected a lot on our own experiences through this call with you. So hopefully we can do a bit of a shift in tone. Actually, LJ, do you want to introduce the next section, since I always do the introductions, but this one.
Welcome to the LightIMM Round, fellas. So we're now in round 3 of our podcast this episode. We're in the LightIMM round segment where we ask each other a question, a total of about 3 questions today. Last time we did this between the two of us, Will and I. This time, Majid, you're going to come and join us in the party. So let me start it off, actually. So let me start off with our special guest, Majid. If you could choose one place to bring your significant other or loved one in your city, where would it be? So I understand you're in Burnaby. Let's just say Greater Vancouver area. Bonus, if you could relate it to a diasporic experience.
I would take her to the Crystal Mall. It's funny because I was discussing Crystal Mall with my friends because that was the first mall that I went to after I came to Canada, and I'm sure my wife would love that experience of because I think Crystal Mall is pretty unique, and I would love to take her there. I mean, it's walkable distance from my place, and I would love to visit that place with my wife because it's. I mean, I'm sure I don't have to describe Crystal Mall, but yeah, that's the place. I'll go eat food for sure for there. The food is cheap and it's very authentic. And the best part about Crystal Mall is that they list prices after taxes, just like in India, right? So it reminds me of home when I look at the price tags there.
No math involved. I do enjoy that. Like when stores do that. There's more and more of them that does that. How about you, Will?
Well, I was going to say, LJ, if you come to Vancouver, which you will very, very soon as the pandemic is over,
yes, hopefully.
We'll film a special episode here. We're taking you to the Crystal Mall, and we're having the Malaysian Singaporean food there. The Malaysian food is incredible. Probably one of the best char kway teows I've had outside of KL. So you're coming, and we're definitely having a policy ponder party in the middle of Crystal Mall with all the aunties pushing carts around and
yes.
all my people. So yes, love to the Crystal Mall. Thank you, Majid, for the shout out. 2 minutes away from home. I go there like twice a week. So
nice.
I love it.
I have one more. I'm sorry. I mentioned Crystal Mall because I lived here for a long time in Burnaby. But the other place is the Pyle Business Center on Scott Road in Surrey.
Yes.
So that's, whenever I miss India, I go there. So that's another place. Have you been to Pyle Business Center?
I've been to Pyle Business Center. I'm a huge fan of Scott Road. Actually, it's interesting. It's very Punjabi. I mean, I'm sure for you too. Like some of the Punjabi, is it familiar? A little different? Like what does that feel like? All the sweets and the food and the.
No, so the thing that you said about aunties, it's the same thing in Pyle Business Center, right? I see people dressed like my mom and things like that. I'm sorry, LJ, we're just speaking all Vancouver.
No. I totally get it. I can vicariously relate. I have a place here in Mississauga that I go to. It's called, I forget the name of the mall itself. It's a building. It's actually not too far from the airport. And funny enough, I always see CBSA officers there eating during lunch. Anyway, there's this place called Lemongrass Kitchen, and all the East Asian and Southeast Asian aunties, like trying to sell us and calling us out, in either Mandarin, or sometimes I hear them even shouting in Tagalog, which is great.
Yeah. Well, it seems like this segment just turned into a food segment. It always does.
Again, yeah.
It's also like 6:30, and both Majid and I are like waiting for. I know it's a little bit later for you, LJ, but we'll say it again. You're probably not eating because you're too busy working. But my place actually would also be somewhat food related, but it's become my favorite grocery store, and actually really close to where you live. Majid, should check it out. The Asi Market. I have so much love for the Asi Market. It's a Korean market. It's on Kingsway, not too far away from where we live in Burnaby. But again, just walking into a Korean supermarket with all Korean aunties and all the Korean kimbap and the different food that's there, but also just seeing how it's become like a melting pot for the Asian community coming together and sharing grocery experiences, especially during COVID, where there's like limitations and you have to line up out the door sometimes. And, whenever you get the anahaseo and the nice service and the good food and people together, even sharing that weekly routine of just buying apples is a wonderful, beautiful thing. So hopefully sooner rather than later, we can all get together and start sharing these experiences in a safe way together without the need for masks and all those things that unfortunately.
What do you know? An episode live in person together. That would be great.
Oh, that would be incredible. It has to be in Burnaby though, because
No, that's fine.
That's awesome. So LJ, how about yourself? Like, I know you mentioned where is your go-to? It doesn't have to be a food one. It could just be, I know you're a biker, which is another incredible experience.
Oh, yeah. Well, I do cycle a lot. And now that it's getting warmer, obviously I'm trying to take advantage of that. Actually my bi-weekly meditative ride along the Humber River Trail. It's about 25 to 40 kilometers, depending on how far I want to go. On good days, especially during the summer, I try to make it to Lake Ontario from up here, the Clairville Dam reservoir, essentially. Takes me about an hour and a half to 2 hours, to get halfway and then take a pause and then keep on going. That's sort of my thing, here in my area. Food related, I think I already shared.
Yeah. Awesome. So question 2 of 3, and this one actually relates a lot to what Majid said today. And I wanted to add this question because it is fun, but it also has a deeper value as well. But what is one thing folks misunderstand about your cultural community that you want to correct on record? And it could be something small, like this is not actually the way we do things, or it could be something bigger, more systemic, be like, we're not all the same in a certain way. But what would it be? And maybe I'll start with you, Majid. Again, Muslim community, much love to my Muslim brothers and sisters, but definitely one of the most misunderstood cultural communities and religious communities that I know.
This one's funny. When I was trying to get married here in Canada, or just get married in general, right? So one of the things that came up to me, because my beard was longer then, and people assumed that I'm an extremist. And it's okay if it's coming from other communities, because maybe they don't know Islam or they don't know Muslim people. But when it started coming from my own folks, because one of the friends, he joked saying, "Oh, I don't want you to oppress a woman. That's why I'm not finding many girls to get married." He made this comment, and it's funny. What's funny is that so I was raised by a single mother. My father passed away when I was 1 year old, and so my mom has been working as a school teacher since then. And for me, I grew up imagining as a kid that nobody needs a father to to live, right? So I come from this background wherein I've always seen a woman as somebody who works hard, takes care of the kids and provides for them, who places education and character ahead of everything. And she moved out of her in-laws. She was living in an apartment by herself with the kids, but only because somebody practices a faith which they have a bias against. For me, what that experience taught me is that I don't judge people by their appearance or their looks or what they wear or what they eat. It's just that only after you know them, it's then when you can make a comment or any statement about them. Applies to any set of people. So yeah. So you know what, I used to joke saying that the moment somebody makes a comment about my beard, I wish it grew an inch longer, just to piss them off. So yeah.
Yes. Thanks for sharing that, Majid, and a very personal story as well. LJ, what about yourself, Filipinx community?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about this next week, by the way. Y'all have.
That's right.
Wait for next week. There'll be another.
Really excited about next week's episode too, for sure. But yeah, like a common cultural stereotype for Filipinos around the world over really is that we're all nurses for some reason, or we're all some sort of healthcare worker. That's not true, guys. While it is true that statistically speaking, more or less, you'll find a lot of Filipino nurses everywhere. My ex got confined at a hospital in Sacramento after developing appendicitis while attending Burning Man. Had to get rushed to the hospital, and of course, the nurses that he dealt with were Filipinas, titas, essentially, offering him, fried noodles, a pancit. It's nice. It's a nice stereotype, but guys, we're not all nurses. So it's not really I guess like as dark as Majid's like that people would think that people are extremists, but in Filipinos case, like we're not all nurses. We come in all shapes, forms, and sizes.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I'll share just one from the Chinese Canadian community. And again, so broad, I can't speak for an entire community, but that's just it. I think our community and our diasporas are across the world through various different countries to Canada, often coming and leaving China for various different reasons, and in other cases, Hong Kong, Taiwan. Mm-hmm. I think it's important before you throw all Chinese and paint everyone with one brush and draw narratives on certain issues, that you think about who the individual is and their background, and ask them questions and get to know it. I mean, one of the great things about our countries too, and I think I speak for all three of us, is it's so internally diverse, so internally complicated, that one town 2 hours away from another town can have beef, or can have some sort of disagreement and miscommunication, or even like share something but not be similar in another way, and that's something that we might not see as much in Canada, because we sometimes are a little too monolithic in one certain shade of something. But we are the world is complicated, and I think it's never good to just take a unilateral, one-sided view of everything. And that's what we try to do on this show, by being balanced and looking at both sides of things as well. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So final question is, this is the fun one.
I really like this one. Yeah.
Like this one? If you could have 4 figures from your country of origin or diasporic community join you on an island to try and survive for a week, and again, you're not going to have anything else, just yourselves, just people,
right.
Who would you bring and why? And we'll start with LJ on this one. Give our guest a little more time to think.
Sure.
An amazing answer. Of course, LJ, I know you're going to give an amazing one too, but who would you bring?
Off the top of my head, the late Carlos Saldran. Funny enough, is 2019, before all of this pandemic mess started, I was supposed to meet him in Madrid in Spain. Unfortunately, on my long layover in Dublin, I found out that he passed away that same night. So it was a tough one, but I have had the chance to interact with him several times when I would visit Manila. First through his tours, he does historical tours of the historical city center, frames Philippine history amazingly and in a way that no other historian is able to do. To be honest, his background is theater. Second person would be Maria Ressa. She is a former Jakarta bureau chief for CNN International, who is now the CEO or the editor-in-chief of Rappler.com. It's an online-based news organization in the Philippines. She's at the receiving end of various, vexatious persecutorial, I want to say, cases by the government, unfortunately, for essentially speaking out, speaking truth to power. I'm a very big fan. Other people would be national figures such as our national hero from the Philippines, Dr. Jose Rizal. Really would love to pick his brain, seriously. Died at the age of, sometime in his 30s, managed to write 2 novels, can speak like 10 languages. Lived in Europe, lived in Asia, spent time in Cuba, spent time in Hong Kong, talking to revolutionaries in the nationalist movement in China, in Cuba, even traveled across the US, talked about the contrast in racial inequality in the US. He was a man a century ahead of his time, really. Finally, one other person that I'd like to, you'll find this a little funny, people might actually hate me for this, Manny Pacquiao.
Manny.
He's an amazing character. Honestly, I would also like to pick his brain. I want to understand how his his thought process works. He's currently a senator in the Philippines, and rumor has it he's gunning for the presidency elections next year. So I don't know what's going to happen. I really would like to understand what goes on in his mind.
You're gonna have a very political island, though, eh?
Very political island.
Very political island. That's an interesting approach, though, and I respect it. And again, a lot of amazing names. I'm only learning more and more about the Filipino diaspora, but just incredible people and warm culture and experiences. Yeah, that's a great list. Majid, have you thought about your list? Who do you bring in and why?
I'll let you go second, Will, because this question stumped me. I tried preparing for it, but I just couldn't think of it. So I'm enjoying the answers that you guys are giving. So Will, go ahead.
I was going to use the time that you were going to answer to think about my four, but I'll have to jump into it right away. I'll bring my late father, though, first. I think it's, keeping family close and just having someone who always get things done and the hardest worker I've ever met. Having him lead and give advice, I think definitely number one. Number two, I'd probably need a strong feminist hero. So I'll bring in Chojing, who is actually an amazing poet, writes, she kicked off a huge revolution and was very outspoken against imperialism at that time in China. Actually, a small family connection is my great-grandfather happened to be actually one of her tutors or mentors who taught her. So having her there to be able to write poetry and fight anyone who shows up and tell them, speak truth to power, essentially. I need someone there to do that as well. Not that my father wouldn't do that. He'd be more of the hardworking sort of behind the scenes type. He didn't like when I was too public with things, which is kind of the opposite way of where I'm going now. But, I always think about his spirit when I do that. And number three, I would probably bring in, I'll bring in one of my own mentors too, Dr. Henry Yu. He is an incredible historian, taught me everything, really changed my life in terms of moving me in a different direction away from sort of whiteness and trying to fit in and assimilate. He taught me about the history of Canada in a very real way, in ways that actually empowered my Chineseness, as opposed to put it as a thing I should hide. And so I think he'd be an amazing storyteller. And if we were surviving for a week on an island, we would need some stories, some fireside stories for sure. So I think he'd be an incredible storyteller for that. And then I have one last one, eh? Ooh, who would I bring? That's a tough one. Huh?
Pacquiao.
Pacquiao. What's the equivalent of the Chinese Pacquiao? We don't have
Is boxing big in China? I'm not.
Not so much, I believe. I think, but the weightlifting is pretty hectic there right now. It's nice. I'm going to bring. Okay, this is going to be sort of an easy answer out, but I'll bring my spouse as well. Since it's the theme of this show, spousal sponsorships too. I mean, I can't survive a day, let alone a week. So I would bring her there, and she'd be the motivation to keep going. And I hope Majid's able to have his spouse with them as well. So yeah. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it's funny because all I could think of was my wife, my son, my father-in-law, and my mom. So these are the people that I would get. And my wife and I can take only 4 people, right? Yeah, I said 4. My wife and son for sure, because my wife is the best woman that I know. I always clarify that mom's love and wife's love are different, but they're both the most important to a man or to any person, right? So I would get them for sure, and my son as well. The thing that I like about my son, he doesn't get cranky. He's always smiling. Will, I can send you some pictures after this call, but he's always smiling, and he doesn't freak out, because I helped my sister with her babies when I was in India. man, if they start crying, they don't stop. But I haven't seen Abdurrahman do it, my son. So, and my father-in-law, he's one of the coolest persons that I've met in my life. You know, even if my wife is freaking out, he doesn't react and he doesn't interfere in any affair. You know, he's always there to help, but he's not nosy, and I really like it. And my mom, you know, just to listen to her life story, because it's incredible, because she was taking summer courses, you know, because she was a teacher. She was doing courses during summers so that she can be safe from a school teacher. She can become a college as a teacher at a college, so that she can give us a better life. And I'm sure there are plenty of sacrifices that she made that I'm not aware of. So I would love to listen to her on that island.
Wow, that's awesome. Speaking of islands, I just wanted to add one more question. I know we're reaching the end of this segment, but I mean, an Indian man from in Brazil, like, talk to me a bit about just Brazil, like, because we asked about diaspora, and you're throwing Brazil in your diaspora. That's become a home, because home is where the heart is, right? And
right.
So give me one quick story of Brazil, like from your perspective too, of just something that maybe others didn't know. Like I for one didn't know that there was a large Indian diaspora in Brazil.
There's not. I haven't met many Indians there. I've met maybe a few who are on a missionary activity, but so Brazil is very similar to India. So I just joke with my friends saying Brazil is very similar to India, but with more crime. Of course, I'm playing on the stereotype that's there. But so the thing that's funny about Brazil, I'm not sure if you guys know, people are very open. People are very open. So when I was applying for my visa at this Brazilian consulate in downtown Vancouver, there was a man who walked out of the consulate with me, and he started asking me all sorts of personal questions in a very casual way, which I'm sure I haven't seen in any cultures, even though Indians can get nosy, but not this nosy. He was asking my wife's city, the area, the place where she grew up, how many siblings she has, what do her parents do. And when I discussed this with my wife and said, you know, this guy was making me uncomfortable, she said, this is Brazil, you know, they always ask these questions. They're very open with what they ask. They don't keep things in their heart. Whereas here in Canada, we don't even exchange phone numbers with people who we are not close to, right? So.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Incredible. And another, I don't know if you've been there, LJ, but I haven't, and it's one of the countries on my I got to get their list eventually. So hopefully.
Same boat, Will. Same boat.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Majid. This brings to the end our LightIMM round, and thank you again just for being here with us. I know it's taken a lot of time out of your day, a lot of again, worry in your life right now, and for you to be able to come here, I hope in a way it's been a bit of a cathartic experience, and for us at least, I know you've given us so much to ponder and think about, and it's renewed our own advocacy and what we want to do to help individuals like yourself. But I just want to point out your resilience, and of course your wife and child's resilience during this time. And we hope to see you all. I hope to see you all in Burnaby very, very soon. And hopefully LJ will be there too at the Crystal Mall, eating some incredible Malaysian halal food. That would be the dream.
And yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate this opportunity. As I said, I was not speaking with anybody about this with an excuse saying there are more touching stories out there. Again, I'm very grateful for this opportunity. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much,
nice to
Majid.
meet you, and I look forward to meeting you soon.
Yes, me too. I look forward to that day.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good evening.
Okay, cool. Will, final thoughts.
So for the Real Talk closing today, I want to talk about action, because right now we've seen the impact of COVID. We've seen families separated. We've seen stories today from individuals like Majid, who himself acknowledges that he still sort of has it relatively good, but is struggling, and how this has taken a toll on his mental health, on his happiness and wellness. I want all of you who are listening, and if you are not in a position of power, talk to someone who's in a position of power. If you are a member of parliament, or if you are the immigration minister, or you work at IRCC, I know you have, multiple things you have to think about, a system to uphold, but don't forget that immigration ultimately is about human life, ultimately is about the movement of individuals, ultimately is about family reunification as an important factor. We are seeing spouses separated on the basis of preconceptions, on racism, misconceptions, misunderstandings, and we're furthering a wrong. We're causing harm. We're also at a risk of a two-tiered system, one that has a different set of rules for those inside Canada and a different set of rules for those who are outside Canada. I ask and I plead really that you do not let families continue to suffer, because suffering is harm, and harm ultimately reflects on all of us. So that will be my closing for the day. I hope we're able to make some changes. And I think some really good ideas have been raised, and everyone's giving good advice. Take some of that advice. Let's make some changes. That is
right.
My Real Talk close for the day.
Thank you, Will. Very powerful. And just to close, two things, just to follow on your line of thought. Back in February, on February 13, something bold happened from the minister's office. 27,000 or so invitations to apply. Of course, a lot of people got bitter, understandably. Understandably, if I were in their position, I'd probably be very bitter.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we see the same level of boldness from our friends over at Immigration in respect to family reunification. This needs to happen now. We need bold action at this point. It's been a year of waiting for a lot of these people, more than a year for a lot of more people, essentially, in the immigration family reunification file. And I'd like to close on a positive note that next week we already have a guest programmed, Joanna Bailan. She's an independent journalist. She's a freelancer. I had the pleasure of actually speaking to her in helping her write an article about healthcare workers. I believe, Will, you were interviewed by Joanna not too long ago as well. And really looking forward to our conversations with her next week.
Yeah, Joanna Bailan is incredible. An exceptional writer. I think probably one of the greatest talents that I've seen of the last little bit. I think after our presentation, she's probably going to get some calls from different outlets asking her to write for them, because she humanizes things, but she also has an incredible story, and we're going to dig into it. It involves multiple countries. It involves one of my favorite diaspora communities, LJ's diaspora community. But we're gonna talk about, we scratch the surface every episode a little. Yeah. Right, but we're gonna jump in next episode. So
I like how it runs parallel to her experiences in Hong Kong too. So there's a lot of intersectionality there. It'll be fun.
Absolutely, and obviously there's lots going on in Hong Kong right now that we probably needed to talk about too, from an immigration updates perspective.
Absolutely.
So that brings us to a close. Episode 2 in the books. LJ, how do you feel? A little tired?
I feel a little overwhelmed. It was a heavy episode, and in light of all circumstances, I'm feeling pretty good about it, though. How about you?
Yeah, I'm feeling good about the episode, but I'm feeling definitely for Majid and families, and I think I'm gonna hug my spouse a little bit closer today. Obviously, we are, for those who are listening, very close to having a new addition to the family, and LJ, we're gonna have to find a backup for me for a couple episodes, but you know what? Family is so important. It's the heart. Without it, I'm nowhere. I'm nobody. So I'm excited for this episode to go out. I'm excited for all of you to engage with it and to share. Are we on Spotify yet, or are we going to get there?
Not yet. We're getting there this week.
We're getting to Spotify this week as well. So you're going to be able to listen to us in your cars as well without being distracted by the YouTube. So love to all of you. Love from us to you. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy the week. See you next week.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week.